All right. Yes. Well, I think we closed the book on this one, and we can move on to the flurry of stories in the Western mainstream media over the last several days. And I'll just pull them up one by one, and maybe I can move to Scott for the initial reaction. So the Wall Street Journal posted a couple days ago, Pentagon sees months left in supply of weapons for Ukraine. One interesting quote here is the U.S. has given a vast range of war material, tanks, helicopters, blah, blah, blah. The assistance enabled Kiev to stave off and beat back a Russian invasion that many initially thought would quickly succeed in toppling the Kiev government, even regained some ground that Russia took in its initial push. Western assistance has helped significantly degrade Russia's military, the world's second largest, which boasted a formidable reputation before the war. Now, it's an interesting take because, this whole article is about how there's only about $5 billion left, and that's going to go next month. But we can continue. There's more articles in the BBC. This is more focused on NATO. So in the BBC, it says, Ukraine war, Western allies say they are running out of ammunition. And I pulled a quote out of here saying, the difficulty is that despite attempts to ramp up production, Ukraine is using ammunition faster than Western powers can replace it. Analysts say that in contrast, Russia appears much more able to gear up its wartime economy and replenish its own stockpiles. So help us understand, Scott, maybe you can go first. What is with this contradiction? Why is it that it's in these days, these first days of October, it feels like one article after another talking about this problem when it comes to weapons, ammunition for Ukraine? What's going on here?
Well, let's keep in mind that the mainstream media has been a very compliant tool of the various governments, the United States, NATO, non-NATO European members who are supporting Ukraine. And they've been used to shape a narrative. This war is being fought on a couple fronts. One very important front that's often overlooked is that Ukraine and the collective West believe that their best chance of success is to create domestic unrest in Russia. So there can be a Moscow Maidan type moment where the population rises up to get, this is their fantasy. This is literally what they smoke dope about and dream about every night, because it's the only way they can win. There's not a military professional worth his or her salt who can sit there and say, we have a path towards a Ukrainian military victory. What they can say is we have a path towards inflicting enough pain on Russia, which, when combined with economic pain brought on by economic sanctions, can create domestic political turmoil inside Russia that can lead to the change in the Russian government that needs to occur to get Russia to withdraw from Ukraine. That's the only path to victory. But the sanctions part has failed abysmally. I came back from Russia, 26 days and 12 cities, and I'm just telling you right now, their economy is doing A-OK. The Russian people aren't suffering. They have all the goods they need. Prices haven't gone through the roof. Things are going okay. Their defense industry is churning out stuff. I didn't investigate it personally because I didn't want to end up like the Wall Street Journal reporter, arrested for espionage. Defense industry production is, after all, classified. We will learn what the Russian government wants us to learn, not what we want to know. But the bottom line is, the proof is in the pudding. They are producing enough munitions to maintain pressure. And it's not just pressure in the special military operation. At the same time this is happening, Russia is expanding its military from 900,000 to 1.5 million. There's, a dozen new division-sized elements being created, not for the special military operation, but for instance, opposing Finland. There's a corps-sized unit going up there, reinforcing the Far East, going up against Japan, looking at that area. The Arctic is something that's being looked at too. And in addition to that, you have not just the 300,000 partially mobilized reservists that came in. You have 300,000 volunteers that have come in that have to be equipped, trained, etc. All of these people require not just the basic combat load that they take with them into combat, but they require the extensive logistical training for sustained combat operations. So the Russians aren't just supplying the special military operation. The Russians are preparing themselves logistically across a broad spectrum of military options, and they're succeeding, whereas the West is failing abysmally, just in the job, not just in the job of supporting Ukraine. We're not. And it's not just that, I love how they say, because Ukraine's expending ammunition at a greater rate. There's a couple things that go into this. One, the poor training of the Ukrainians. They're burning through artillery tubes because they're just pounding rounds down there without giving the tubes, they're not cleaning them, they're not giving a chance to cool down, they're just burning them out. That creates a problem. But two, you can't just simply say we gave them this amount of ammunition and at this period of time they're out of ammo. You can't just say, oh, well, that must mean that they're shooting them. The Russians are blowing a lot of stuff up. The Russians become very good at battlefield interdicting the deep areas, interdicting the forward warehouses. Their intelligence is getting better assets, better targeting, better weaponry. The Russians have achieved a level of domination over the near battle and the deep battle, the intermediate battle with drones. They are saturating the Ukrainian front with drones, tactical drones, etc. The new Lancets have a longer range. There's more of them. In the month of September, Russia used 580 some odd Shahed drones. It exceeds the number that was used in June, July, and August altogether. And it's going to get even more this month and next month as more drones come in online. The Ukrainians can't get anything to the front line right now. It's getting blown up as it gets there, and which complicates too, because we assume that when we give them something, I have to tell you, military planners will say, we assume a certain amount of loss. There's X amount's going to be lost, a certain percentage. Well, I'm telling you right now that it's that times 4. It's just getting blown away. So the Ukrainians aren't even getting what's necessary to sustain their combat operations. The mainstream media now has been instructed to start preparing the various audiences for the inevitability of a defeat. And they're looking to shape the narrative in a way that removes blame from the West. They're going to come up with any number of reasons why this isn't working, but none of them are going to be because the West failed to do its job. But that's what we're seeing with these leaks coming out now. And in many ways, what happened with Kevin McCarthy is a blessing to the United States, because now they'll be able to say it's all the Republicans' fault. The reason why the Ukrainians lost is because these fanatic groups of Republicans kicked out Kevin McCarthy, froze spending at a critical time, and the Ukrainians weren't able to sustain their victorious, wonderful counteroffensive, and that's what cost them victory. They're going to spend this any way they want, but the bottom line is Ukraine was always going to lose this war. Now that they are losing it in a demonstrable fashion, the media is going to be spending it in a way that protects their political masters.
Andre, Garland?
Well, I'll say this. There again, I always like to point out contradictions. This points out a glaring contradiction, because recently Zelensky, he's in Canada, he's at the UN, and what he's arguing, and we've heard this argument before, that Putin has to be stopped. The Russians must be stopped at Ukraine, because if they win Ukraine, they're heading for the English Channel. Oh, they're going to go across and they're not going to stop until they get here, right? However, at the same time, we're to understand that the Brits and everybody are giving away all of their military gear. If they're afraid that they are going to there's an imminent attack from the Russians coming, as soon as the Russians dispense with Ukraine, right into, Poland and everywhere else, but they're giving away all their gear. It makes no sense that they would be giving away all their stuff if they truly believed that there was a threat from Russia. Russia right now is what? They're holding back hundreds of thousands of troops. They're building all of this stuff. They're not using the largest part of their military. Why? It's obvious, because they are concerned about a potential attack from NATO. So if you look at what Russia is doing, their actions that they are taking aligns with their concerns that they could face an attack from a powerful enemy. If you look at what NATO's doing, their actions do not align with their concerns. I'm going to give up all my weapons and I'm afraid that this gigantic monster is going to attack me. It makes no sense. It makes it clear they know the truth, that Russia is no threat to them. Why would Russia send them documents saying, let's work out a security agreement where everybody's safe? Why would Russia send them this before taking action? Threaten, hey, if we don't get things straight, guys, there could be a military/technical action taken. Why would they do that if they just wanted war? It makes no sense. So again, their actions are not aligning with their so-called fear of a Russian invasion.
Absolutely. Both Scott pointed out, especially about military specialists worth their salt, or as Garland correctly pointed out, the posture. Russian posture is strategically defensive. It has enormous amount of troops, obviously, ready to basically face any kind of contingency. And correct, it's all about the only thing those people can do is PR. I'm talking about corporate media. Let me put it this way. I as already stated, I changed my position for some time ago that there are no real professional experts working anywhere in any corporate media in the United States. I'm not talking about clowns like David Petraeus or Keane from Institute for Unlearning How to Fight a War. There's not a single professional behind American corporate media who understands actually what modern multi-domain, massive scale combined arms operations are and how strategies are developed. None, zilch. None of them will stand, even communicating on the level of the division or corps planning, will be able to even argue with somebody, the officer from the staff of the army, for example. They will just wipe the floor with them, with all those people like Petraeus who wrote the field manuals on counterinsurgency. He's nobody. He doesn't even understand how this whole thing works. And that's one of the issues. It's all about PR. It's all about narrative. Scott is absolutely correct. And the Russian posture is obviously defensive. And it will remain so until the strategic discussion in Kremlin is over. And strategic discussion in Kremlin is this: how do we proceed from here? Because I can tell you firsthand news from my friends on the front lines there who are embedded with the division level formations, that even Avdiivka, which is everybody asks, why Russians allowed to shell, from Avdiivka? Well, let's put it this way. Well, there's definitely the shelling, some shelling, random, and periodically 1, 2, 3 civilians sadly die. But, even they say, we can take Avdiivka now. But obviously, this is a different operational strategic picture. They look at the tactical minutiae and make conclusions, And here comes this very funny anecdote, very famous now. Imagine 2 Red Army soldiers, just entering Berlin in May 1945 and defeating Nazis. So they sit, at the Reichstag, and one officer, Red Army officer says to another, hey, Ivan, let's toast for the victory. So they pour the alcohol. They want to toast. And then Ivan, suddenly he's very sad. And he said, what's wrong with you? We just, won the wonderful victory. He said, well, we lost the propaganda war. And that's the whole point of it. So, no matter what they say, they can spin it whatever they want. And there are some now actually information which even the American observers begin to say. They panic in Pentagon. They saw all those best weapons in the world going up in flames. So this is simple as that. It's not what you say, it's what you do which matters. And the most of the world, they're not stupid. People from Zambia are not stupid. Argentinians are not idiots. Indians are not stupid. Chinese are not stupid. Even South Koreans are not stupid. They see it all. They don't buy just, the propaganda from Washington, D.C. They go and read and, view other sources. And then suddenly the picture they see is, well, you know what? Even on YouTube, go and look at this. They clean it up as much as they can, but you can see yourself actually what is going on there. And it's a horrible slaughter. I'm sorry to say that. And we know now, and we spoke yesterday, Larry Johnson, Marat Haroulin, and Palit Vera, yesterday we had this wonderful round table. Everybody knows this. This is not absolutely secret anymore, but it's the fact that most of the Ukrainian troops are pumped with drugs. I mean, the only question is what kind of drugs. They are being either IV with the drugs, or they issued some kind of the type of the chocolate bars, and they literally forcefully feed them. And then they go into battle. Of course, they don't understand what they're doing. They've been slaughtered like today. They went to Rabotina again, and they went around Kupiansk. I mean, they just dropped something like 1,000 people today, of the armed forces of Ukraine. And those people, they don't understand the scale of that. We are talking right now, the casualties in Ukraine. I'm talking about both KIAs and wounded, sanitary casualties. And so when you put this together, we're looking at between 1.2 to 1.5 million, with about 500,000 KIAs alone. This is what is confirmed, because nobody knows the number of the killed, and it's huge number, what is happening in the immediate tactical rear, let alone operational rear. Every day, Scott correctly stated, those, they called Gerans, Shahid drones. It's not just drones. There are swarms of the cruise missiles flying there, just blowing the military industrial infrastructure and locations of their units. Some of the formations in the armed forces of Ukraine, they haven't been even able to deploy anywhere, because they have been already, blown out of the, to smithereens in their pre-deployment areas. And nobody knows how many people killed there. But you suddenly have 2 brigades, and bang, you don't have them anymore. They didn't even reach their, what's the name of it, front line. So when the real numbers will be published, we will be astonished. This is it's also one of the worst war crimes. And neocons, and they are responsible for that, together with their lapdogs from London, who are nobodies, and they still have those phantom pains about their greatness. They are pathetic and clowns, basically, so that's what it is.
Yeah, and maybe final thoughts about this issue. I wanted to read, and maybe Andre, actually, you can start, and then we can go around the horn to Scott and Garland. I feel like you said public relations, Andre, is just critical right now for the collective West as things have gone south. And here, this quote out of the Wall Street Journal, I feel like is what I'm hearing a lot more, is that there's always at least a few references to this, what I think is a complete lie, but they're presenting it as fact. The assistance enabled, this is Western assistance to Kiev, to stave off and beat back a Russian invasion that many initially thought would quickly succeed in toppling the Kiev government, and even regain some ground Russia took in its initial push. Western assistance has helped significantly degrade Russia's military, the world's second largest, which boasted a formidable reputation before the war. Andre, your expertise is for sure centers around Russia's military to a large degree. This all feels like complete.
Yeah, that's fantasy. And if you take anybody from Wall Street Journal currently, including their generals who advise them, the only thing they can do is PR. They cannot run anything. And again, the average, it applies not only to American or British, it applies to many Russian journalists too, especially what Margarita Simonyan dropped, the literally thermonuclear bomb yesterday. So if you take those people, they are ignoramuses. They are literally morons who have no clue about what they're talking about. And Wall Street Journal is just, they lie. They need to always present their exceptionalism as, the Russian military history dwarfs anything out there, okay? And Wall Street Journal has no idea what again, Russian general staff is older than the United States as a nation, okay? So, I mean, yeah, the guys who defeated Napoleon, took Paris, took Berlin twice, actually, defeated Manstein, Guderian, Kleist, and things of this nature. I mean, yeah, sure, go, impress me. So, and that's the whole point. There is a lot of what is known today as a sour grapes and a butthurt. And if you take any American general in media today, any Pentagon official, any of them, they are really butthurt because Mr. Cavoli, one of the few evidently competent American generals, four-star generals, supreme commander of the NATO forces in Europe, January this year, talking to the Swedish Defense Forum, he quote him, scale, scale, scale. We never saw anything like this. And this is pretty much what it is. And of course, by the way, armed forces of Ukraine never took anything from Russian army. What happened? Russians withdrew for their own operational and strategic reasons, and only then they go in and hooray, So that is why they sold this garbage of the hike of operation counteroffensive. Russians went in, they withdrew. They went to Hostomel at the very start, expecting the peace talks to start to show intention, And there was another thing in the Hostomel airport, which was a little bit more complex than just merely a demonstration. They had something they needed to take out, which they did. But primarily, these were demonstration or, demonstration of force to show that Russia is serious. Let's talk. In April, we all know what happened in Istanbul. The peace talks have been sabotaged. After that, the real special military operation started.